Welcome to Hawk Talk Week 8. Week 8, guys. Hawk Talk episode in the booth with me, C. Weber. C. Weber, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. How's it going? Good to be back to a regular schedule after All-Star Week.
Yeah, after All-Star Week, holiday. Crazy. But yeah, we're in Week 8, regular season finale week, guys. Last week of the regular season. A lot on the line in some conferences. We're going to chat about that today. If you guys notice, I got my jersey in. My Baron Thomas Michigan State jersey in. Guys, if you want to order one of these bad boys, let me know. These are sweet. But anyway, I think C. Weber's got one on the way as well, right?
I've got one, probably should be here for season 3.
Nice. Anyway, so we're going to chat about All-Star Week. We're going to recap All-Star Week. We're going to talk about Week 8, and then we're going to preview maybe some conference regular season crown scenario. So let's jump right into it. Why are you wearing a trash bag? That is mean.
Ouch, that's
mean.
harsh.
Yeah,
that's harsh.
That is harsh. I'll take it though. Zing. All right, so let's go to All-Star Week. It was a fun week, guys. We had a first ever 3-point dunk contest, our first ever All-Star game, and our Rising Stars games, which was Green versus Reds. The Greens versus Reds game was exciting for the most part. C. Weber, you watched that game. You had a guy in there, Gus Lake, who had quite the second half. The Phenoms, or the Greens actually won that game, 113-89. Talk about that game a little bit. What you saw. Your guy Gus Lake played in that game and did pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. Gus really, Gus and Max Chapman there really kind of took over that game for the Greens. Mm-hmm. And I mean, all credit to the Phenoms. They played a great game, but I mean, you see what the Greens do in this league basically in that game. That really showed the value of them because, like I said, Gus and Chapman really went off and basically led that team to victory. I know DeVito put up, was it DeVito put up 22 points on the other side?
Was, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I look at my box, if I go back to the box score here, I could see that. But DeVito had a terrific game for the Reds.
Yeah, he really lit it up for them. He was a leader for them all night. And let me just...
so DeVito had 21 and 2. Gunnar Stahl for Louisville had 13 and 3. Surf Booth, who we've seen play really well, had 9 and 3 for the Reds. But the Greens, Max Chapman had 24. Gus Lake had 19. So the two guys that came into this game probably as the, that JUCO Player of the Year candidate, that race, Max Chapman and Gus Lake really showed out.
Yeah, exactly. And also the standouts had 35 assists in that game, which is just a ridiculous number. And I know Gus and Max had probably at least half of those.
Well, Gus had 6. Yeah, Max had 8. So
so there you go. I mean,
but I mean, if we talk about the value that Greens bring to a team, a lot of the time we're calling these guys role players, right? So I mean, they played their role in that game. I mean, they passed the ball around, they shared the ball, and they did what Greens do. And their two hottest scorers got going pretty early and did well.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody did. I guess there really wasn't too much defense being played in that game. Now that I'm looking at it,
the sliders were down.
I looked at it. I thought somebody had a defensive game, like 3 steals or something. Like, it was Cobb had 2.
Yeah,
steals
Cobb's a multi-positional defender too. So
yeah, exactly.
That makes sense for him.
But that was it.
Definitely makes sense for him. Cobb doing that. But yeah, the Greens played really well. It was fun to watch. Didn't really expect them to win the game, but they did. Convict Chapman is a beast. I know you're point guard at USC. You've seen that all year. You know him better than us. So, but we've come to know Max Chapman and Gus Lake very well. And then moving on Tuesday night, we had the 3-point in the dunk contest. And that was a fun night, man. Dunk contest was really fun to watch. 3-point contest was fun to watch. These guys lit it up. And the 3-point contest, the winners, if you missed that, Adrian King won the 3-point contest. Second place was Monty White, and third was Xavier Reed the third. I think it was safe to say that Adrian King came into this as the favorite. But who surprised you in this one? I think Monty White was the surprise for a lot of people.
Wyatt went going 5 for 5 on that money ball rack to come in second. I think, and he did that in the second round. So we really put pressure on King to go out, and he did the same thing in an answer. Xavier Reed, everybody expected to be there. One of the surprises actually was my guy Gino
Yeah,
not doing as well as he did. He said
Gino
he
was
had a
my
little too
pick.
much lasagna.
Yeah, Gino was my pick to win it, but yeah, his hands were a little slippery, I guess, in that game. So didn't
Yeah,
do as well
he
as he
had
wanted to. But we've seen Gino get
greasy
hot.
greasy palms from that Syracuse pizza there. But
Yeah, the Italian stallion, not too much pizza for sure. But yeah, it was fun. Adrian King just ran away with that competition. It was, I think he hit five. He went 5 for 5 on his money ball rack, and was just super exciting to see what he can do. A guy that's probably the best scorer in our league.
oh, no doubt. You saw what he could do as the best scorer in our league in that competition, and I think he was the favorite going in for a lot of people. It's not a real surprise that he came out on top. Again, I think Monty Wyatt coming in second and showing that he can go shot for shot with Adrian King was the real surprise of the night.
Yeah, Monty Wyatt can fill it up. He's going to have to do that for Clemson if they want to make a run. And then the dunk contest uh, came out like this: Scooby Lewis, Mike Coco, Turk Maverick, and Trey Upton. This, guys, is not the 2K results. These are the public voting results based on what you guys did in Discord. And this is what you guys came out with based on the average scores of the dunks. Scooby Lewis was the winner in the 2K version and in this. So, see whoever Scooby Lewis really showed out. This is a guy that we knew Mike Coco can throw down. We knew Trey Upton can get up and throw down. Turk Maverick's thrown some blistering dunks on people's heads. Scooby Lewis is a guy that we haven't seen do it a ton this year in game, but when it came out in the dunk contest, he really threw some creative stuff together.
Yeah, and I think something that really got overlooked with Scooby during the season is he's put in a lot of really fancy, really highlight worthy alley oop layups.
Yeah,
he didn't have the chance to dunk, and we really got a chance to see what he could do in the contest, especially going over the head of whatever UK player that was he drug out there to help him with. I never got to see his face,
yeah.
but
leave it to Wired to invite a random UK guy to All-Star Weekend, right? So.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, he threw down some crazy dunks, and even in the All-Star game, we saw him throw down some insane dunks in the game. So Scooby Lewis is a guy that people are going to have their eye on for sure. But yeah, the dunk contest was fun. It worked out exactly like we wanted it to, and we're glad it did. And then on Friday, we took a couple days off for Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a good one. And then on Friday, we went to the All-Star game. The All-Star game was really fun to watch. It was back and forth. Team Caden was down 21 at some point, made it a game, and at the end, Team Reed, the third, who I didn't pick to win this game, but they came out 118 to 113. The Sliders were still up a little, but not as much. We saw a little more defense, but still, all in all, it was a really fun game to watch. Team Caden was led by Mike Coco, 22 points, and then Scooby Lewis had 20 for them, followed by Bigums with 18. And then Trey Upton led Team Xavier the third with 26 points, Tess Green at 13, and Devin Davis at 12. Devin Davis is a guy that we saw a lot of in the preseason. Got the MVP of the Jamaica Classic. Then hasn't done a ton for Oregon. I mean, Oregon's been great. They've just been a really solid team. And then he showed off a little bit in the All-Star game a little bit. So excited to see Devin Davis get back to form. But how about the game, man? What'd you think of the game? What'd you like? I mean, your guy Gino was in it. My guy was in it. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, what did I like was basically it was just a lot of fun to watch. There were even points where I kind of just had it on in the background, but just the amount of, like you were saying, Scooby hit some huge dunks.
Yeah.
And just the amount of things that were going on, really, it was a crazy game to watch. Again, like I said, Devin Davis go with the double-double and 4 blocks, like really coming up big on defense in an all-star game, which is rare. So that was fun to watch. Same with Bigums, also coming up big on defense in an all-star game was kind of a fun thing to watch because you don't get to see it a lot. But I expected Team Caden to really keep it a little closer, although they did make a great comeback at the end, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, as far as all-star game goes, that was really, like I said, really fun to watch. But it shows how competitive these guys are to really lock down on defense late in the game and try to will their team to a win. They don't care if it's an all-star game or what; they're going to try to win, and that's what I think. We forget sometimes how competitive some of these guys are. So definitely fun to watch. That wrapped up All-Star Weekend, guys, and then we head into Week 8, which is this week, the final week of the regular season. We're going to talk about the matchups tonight. We'll talk about the matchups all week, but starting off tonight, Wisconsin. Ohio State, this should be a really good one. Ohio State has turned everything around. I mean, early in the season, we didn't really know what to think of them, and they've turned things around in a big way. As Big Dog says in chat, Ohio State is dangerous now. I agree. I think Ohio State is very dangerous. What do you think?
For sure. I mean, they played Michigan to a 3-point game, had a chance to win that at multiple points late. Like I said, came up just 3 points short, and even after that game, have been on a roll, winning their last two by an average of about 20 points. I don't know the exact scores there, but they've just been blowing teams out for the past 2 weeks, and they've really become a scary team.
Yeah, for sure. So that should be a good one tonight. Louisville, North Carolina. Doesn't mean much in terms of conference standings or who's going to win, but these are two guys fighting not to get that bottom seed. Because if you get that bottom seed in the conference tournament, it means you're playing on the road in the first round, and you don't really want that. So North Carolina's been struggling a little bit. I think we both thought that they would be a lot better coming into the season, and they've just been, on a cold streak. Louisville's played better as of late. I'm excited to see what happens in that one. Could Louisville possibly beat North Carolina at UNC?
I think Louisville does have a chance in this game. If you go back a couple of weeks to what they did against us, I would say until the fourth quarter, I was really kind of biting my nails there a little bit. Like we didn't really pull away from them like we did, like we had been the weeks before that. And yeah, so I think Louisville's actually a much better team than they appear, given their record. I think UNC is also maybe caught the short end of the stick in a lot of games, but this is going to be a good chance to see. I mean, the way it works out, it looks like this is going to be our 5-6 preview in the conference tournament. So, we'll get to see how that game's going to shake out again in a week when those guys match up again.
For sure. And then in the SEC, Texas and Kentucky tonight, the primetime matchup, Monday night primetime matchup, Texas versus Kentucky. The Longhorns, actually, they're tied. I believe they're tied. If we take a look at the standings real quick, I believe they are tied in they're tied in the Big 12. So this one's really for the possible 3 seed. Maybe a chance. I mean, I think we're going to see both of these teams probably play each other again as well in the conference tournament. So what goes into your mindset as a coach? Obviously you don't want to be the 4 seed, but what goes into your mind as a coach, realizing that you're probably going to play these guys again next week?
Well, again, like I said, with the UNC Louisville, as a coach, it gives you a good chance to look at. I mean, I'm going into this game looking at it almost as an experiment, because I know I'm playing these guys again in a week in the conference tournament, or likely playing them again in a week in the conference tournament. So what can I do this week to try and confuse them and try to get the win now? And what can I do slightly different next week that still keeps the game plan going in the same direction? Like, that's what I'm going to be looking at in this game tonight.
Yeah, I almost want to picture this as like kind of a 2-round, like a 2-round fight, where they're kind of feeling each other out for tonight, and then next week we're really going to see who makes the correct adjustments, because you really don't want to lose that first round game. So that is tonight, guys. Should be fun to watch. All starting here at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern, with Ohio State and Wisconsin. Tomorrow, Florida and Oklahoma State, Clemson and Duke, and Michigan and Purdue. Which one of those 3 games, C. Weber, are you kind of looking forward to maybe spotlight tomorrow night?
I'm actually kind of looking forward to Michigan-Purdue. I know it's not maybe on everybody's radar, but just in terms of what is Michigan going to do going into the postseason, and how is Purdue going to recover from their last couple of losses. Purdue's a team that we thought was going to be doing a lot better than they were. Darius Martin has been a stud all year, but he hasn't gotten the support from the rest of his team as much as Michigan has been a much better all-around team. They had a couple of late signings there with Morgan Freeman and Harry Hands. Yeah, so we'll get to see how they play out a little bit more, because we've really only seen a couple of games from them. So, what are you looking for tonight?
Tonight or tomorrow? I mean, tomorrow I'll
tomorrow. Yeah, in tomorrow's set. Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably looking at that Big Ten matchup as well, but I'm biased because I'm in the Big Ten. But Clemson and Duke should be a really good one. If we go back to the ACC, standings, Duke's at 3-1 and Clemson's at 2-2. So this can have some, this could mean something to both these teams, and we're going to go over those scenarios pretty soon here. But that game has a lot riding on it. So if you're Clemson, you're really
definitely for Duke.
Definitely for Duke.
Definitely.
If you're Clemson, you're looking to walk into Duke's Cameron Indoor and upset the Blue Devils.
Well, that's it. Like as for Clemson, you're definitely looking at this as a chance to improve your postseason standing. Right. Like, if you're thinking, we're going into the postseason as a maybe a 4 seed in our region, a win over Duke could get you up to a 3.
Yeah.
That's the kind of win that Clemson really needs right now to move up in the standings.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to look towards the conference tournament and say this is really going to where your seeding is going to happen. But we've already seen big wins by teams like Gonzaga over Oregon that can really help their seeding down the road. So this is another one of those where, like you said, Clemson could put on their resume that, yeah, we beat Duke on the road. With a lot on the line, so that would be a big win for Clemson. But tomorrow, your Syracuse Orange play the Florida State Seminoles. That is a huge game. We'll go back to that one. Kansas plays Tennessee, and Oregon plays UCLA. Talk about one of those other 2 games real quick. Kansas, Tennessee, or Oregon and UCLA.
Well, Oregon, UCLA. I think I had mentioned to somebody else earlier this week even that's going to be a huge matchup in terms of what's going to end up happening in the Pac-12. UCLA has kind of been a little bit up and down here and there, but has had some really good showings, especially against USC and Oregon State. So, I mean, there's a lot of strong teams in the Pac-12. And Oregon, we want to see what's going to happen after they drop that huge game to USC. Like that was a big. We're talking about points on your resume, right? Like that's a big negative on their resume, and that's another thing that plays a big factor going into the postseason is key losses. That's something you always hear the guys on ESPN talking about is key wins and key losses, and that's always a big factor. So
yeah, I mean during our March Madness show, we'll definitely talk about that. But yeah, let's talk about your game tomorrow night, Syracuse and Florida State, guys. This game is massive. This is for the ACC regular season title, so I mean, it doesn't need to be seen. It's great because I get to call it on Wednesday, so it's going to be awesome. But yeah, let's talk about what are you looking for out of. I mean, you guys are playing. Florida State is a team that was picked to finish last at the beginning of the season, and they have turned it around, and now they're playing for an ACC title on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I mean, Florida State, as we've seen week in and week out, this is a team that begins and ends with Spencer Murray. Like, he comes out and is averaging, I think, somewhere near 20 points a game this season, and is an absolute leader for that team, whether he's in the starting 5 or coming off the bench. We've seen him do both. And, I'm worried about, like, where's he going to be this week? Because I know where I put my guys. I want to know who's going to match up against him. So, I want to see how he plays, and in terms of my guys, I'm really interested to see how my bench comes out of All-Star Week, like especially with Gus Lake riding the high from being kind of co-player of the game with Max Chapman there. So, what are you looking for out of that game? Because
I think Florida State is fantastic. I think that they used to be the Spencer Murray show. They still are, but I think his supporting cast is. We talked about. We talked about other teams like Purdue that didn't have the supporting cast around Darius Martin. Spencer Murray has that supporting cast now with Greg Davidson, Aaron Witten. They got guys. These Greens have played well for them, and Klaus Reicher. They got guys that we saw Gustafson in the Green game. So they got guys that could score the basketball other than Spencer Murray. And Spencer Murray's not afraid to distribute. He's really transformed his game from what we saw early in the season. And really adapted to kind of that floor leader role. So I think Florida State's a tough team to guard. They're really interestingly put together because they really don't have like crazy shooters. Ben Dover came onto the team and really solidified that shooting guard role for them. So they're tough to guard They really are tough to guard 1 through 5 with Joseph Banks at the 5. So it's going to be a terrific matchup. Can they stop you guys from shooting a 3 barrage on them? And you guys are just so well balanced with DJ Jackson in there, Braxton Robinson, who really doesn't get enough credit.
he's been our stud off the bench, aside from Gus Lake all season.
I think that Braxton Robinson is arguably the most underrated player in our league right now. So
he's really flexible. I mean, he's played everywhere from. I mean, I've had him starting. I've had him coming off the bench. I've had him as sixth man. I've had him pretty much everywhere this year. He's a really great player to utilize. So
yeah, he's fun, and that's just going to solidify your bench so much more. So I think it's going to be a terrific game. If I had to pick a winner, I think you guys have just been so hot lately. But you are going on the road to Florida State, so we'll see what happens on Wednesday. But that one is for the ACC title, which we'll talk about again here in a minute. And then on Thursday, to round out the regular season, Indiana plays my Michigan State Spartans. Gonzaga plays USC, and Oregon State versus UNLV, which we're going to get into again in a second here, has major implications in the Pac-12.
Yeah, Oregon State, UNLV. I mean, maybe let's talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the Pac-12 race, because that's really, that game kind of decides it. But what are you looking for out of Michigan State? How are you guys looking going into the last week? What are you looking for heading into the conference tournament?
We were playing better, and then we weren't playing better. We've been so streaky right now. I'm just looking for a little consistency against a team that we've played in the preseason already. So we're familiar with Indiana. Obviously, they're not the same team as we saw when we were in the preseason in Brooklyn, but Indiana's a team that matches up well against us. Chrome can guard three positions, and Rob Bass does all the little things for Indiana, and you can't forget about Keon Gordon and Higgy down there. They're a terrific team, and one that I don't think enough people talk about. So I'm really looking for us just to get out to a quick start. That's been a problem for us all season, is getting slow starts and just being consistent for the entirety of the game.
Yeah, you mentioned Keon Gordon is definitely a player that I've been keeping my eye on a little bit more this season. One of the few players that I've seen come out with a double-double in points and assists. Like, we see a lot of points and rebounds, but he had that 12-assist game earlier in the year, so his distribution of the basketball is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it might be the single-game record for assists, right? So
yeah, I'm still
be. I don't know if we've ever had another
but
double-digit assist in a game. So
I think Trey did it in that crazy game in the preseason, but I mean, that was preseason. And also, I think he only had 10 assists, but 20-something points.
Yeah,
so.
12 assists is wild. And I mean, Keon, they really, right? We saw in that overtime game, right? That overtime game we saw last week, that he really. Keon Gordon took over that game in the overtime, in the fourth quarter in overtime. I think he scored like 12 points in the last 4 minutes in overtime. So he really took over. So for a guy to be able to, facilitate like that and also take over when his number is called is really, really dangerous.
Yeah, that was scary. I didn't see that game live. I went back and watched it, and it was just absolutely. I mean, did anybody else even score in overtime? Like, it really felt like he.
It was him versus Darius. It was like the him versus Darius Martin show. It was really great to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was great basketball. Like, that really, there was nothing else to it. Like, it was great basketball, and both of them are phenomenal players. But it was great to see him kind of break out in a situation like that.
Yeah, so I mean, he's going to have a tough matchup with Baron Thomas tomorrow night. Baron Thomas is going to have a tough matchup with him. It should be really fun to watch. I think both teams are very loaded in their guard slots with Ihagee, Keon Gordon, versus Baron Thomas and Deion Cooper. Maybe a guy like DJ Jones is the X factor, Adam Crun on the other side. It's a matchup for matchup kind of game, and it's really exciting. Look for maybe like a Jacob McKnight to be the real X factor in that game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, McKnight's been an X factor in a lot of games this year. We're talking about guys that set records.
Blocking
he has
shots,
the block record. 6 blocks in a game. That's pretty impressive from what I've seen. Again, like I said, I haven't gone all the way back in stats to game 1, season 1, but I don't remember anybody really going off like that. So
yeah, there's been. I mean, I think somebody had 4 or 5 a couple weeks ago, but
who was it for Kentucky? Not Chamberlain.
Was it Jackson?
The other guy.
It was Justin
Williams.
Justin Williams. Yeah. I mean, Jacob McKnight is a premier shot blocker in this league, so he's going to help a lot. for guys like Keon Gordon that like to come inside a lot too. So excited to see what plays out this week. Let's jump into some scenarios. I'll switch you back over to our site screen here so we can take a look at the standings. Let's go to the one that's pretty much decided already. The Big 12. The Big 12 is pretty much decided. Oklahoma State's locked up the number 1 seed. Kansas has locked up the number 2 seed due to their head-to-head with Kentucky and Texas. Kansas has only lost to Oklahoma State. The game against Kentucky and Texas is for the 3 seed. Then Florida's got the 5 seed and Tennessee's got the 6 seed. So it's pretty straightforward. Other than that 3 seed Kentucky versus Texas tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing, like we were talking about earlier, that we're looking at in that conference. If Tennessee can squeak out a win, maybe they can get past the Gators, but I don't really see anything getting shaken up here too much.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of seeding purposes, even a Tennessee win wouldn't get them past the Gators.
Yeah, that's true because they lost to the Gators anyway, so it's pretty much completely decided.
Like I said, the only seeding implications for conference tournament right now is Kentucky and Texas, which means we'll have a 5-6 game against Florida or with Florida State or Florida and Tennessee. Remember that last year the loser of the 4-5 game did not make March Madness. This year it is completely different. Nobody is eliminated. We will go to our selection committee to decide the 20 teams that will be playing in March Madness. But tomorrow tonight Kentucky and Texas for the number 3 seed in the Big 12, but Oklahoma State's locked up the Big 12 regular season title. Let's move on to the let me look at my thing here. Let's go on to the Big 10, where Michigan has claimed the regular season crown. They haven't lost yet. They're looking to go undefeated in the Big 10. Shane Page has done a great job at Michigan with that team. They look really solid, vying for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So we'll see if they can get that. Their conference hurts them a little bit, but they've been playing really well against out-of-conference teams as well. And then Ohio State has locked the number 2 seed due to their head-to-heads versus Indiana and Michigan State with only a loss to Michigan. And then we go to Michigan State and Indiana. This is very, very much the same as Kentucky and Texas. The winner of this game is going to get the 3 seed. The loser gets the 4. Wisconsin's going to get the 5, and Purdue gets the 6. So Michigan State and Indiana for the number 3 seed in the Big 10.
Yeah, obviously that's a big game for you guys, like we were talking about, and really the only race to be decided in the Big 10 as well. And I think there's a little bit more interest here, though, simply because of the fact that Wisconsin has actually come on a little bit lately. So maybe you'd rather be the 3 seed here, even though you're likely going to face the same team again in 2 weeks. But I personally would want to avoid Wisconsin going into the tournament.
Yeah, I had misspoken about the conference tournament. I think it will be 3-6, 4-5 this year. So even more of a reason to win this game so that you don't run into that 5 seed. Because if anybody's watched NCAA tournaments, those teams that are kind of in the middle there, those 12 seeds, 11 seeds, 10 seeds are teams that really surprise people. So Wisconsin sets up perfectly to be one of those teams. So you really do want to avoid them in the conference tournament. So this game has big implications for sure. And then in the let's go over to the. You all right down there? All right, let's go over to the. I want to do Pac-12 last, so let's go to the ACC.
Yeah, let's do ACC. Yeah.
Yeah. So ACC tonight, or obviously your game on Wednesday against Florida State is for the ACC title.
Well, actually, I was thinking about that. There's a real if-then scenario here. If Florida State does beat us, they're going to need some help from Clemson because they lost.
Yeah, right. So I wrote down on there, Syracuse will win the ACC with a win versus Florida State, or a loss and a Duke win. So there's some scenarios where Syracuse in the driver's seat. I mean, they obviously control their own fate.
Well, actually, with a Duke win, it basically just means a 3. Well, no, because
it would be a 3-way tie.
No, okay, yeah, 3-way tie.
If you guys lost, if you guys lost and Duke won, well, if you guys lost and Duke won, it would be a 3-way tie. So it would go to. I mean, you guys all have split against each other at that point. So our tiebreaker would be. Are you all right? Point different, or our tiebreaker would be overall standing there. And I think you guys, even with point differential, you guys are pretty much on top. So Syracuse is really in the driver's seat to win the ACC. Florida State can win it though if they beat you and Duke loses. So Florida State could very much still win this thing. Duke really doesn't have a shot at winning it due to their point differential and stuff, but they can get the number 2 seed with a win versus Clemson or an FSU loss. So if FSU loses, Duke will get that no matter what in the 2 seed. Clemson can actually jump into the number 3 seed with a win versus Duke. So if they beat Duke, they'll jump into the number 3 seed. Otherwise, they'll be the 4. Then Louisville and UNC for the 5 and 6 seed tonight.
Right.
So
I mean, again, it's the 3-4 here, like trying to avoid whoever ends up in that 5 seed in the first round. So
yeah, right. So
I'm going into this looking at like, yes, I'd like to win, but I'm going to be the 1 or 2 no matter what happens.
Yeah, you're going to get a bye no matter what in the first round of the conference tournament. But I mean, saying that too, if you're the 2, you're going to get a harder semifinal matchup too. So.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if I'm the 2, I'm likely playing Duke again, and I really don't want to have to beat Duke 3 times in a season.
I hear you. So if you guys thought the ACC was crazy, let's go over to the Pac-12, which is just a mess right now. So over to the Pac-12. See wherever we take a look there. Oregon State, UCLA are both 3-1. UNLV, Oregon are 2-2. USC and Gonzaga are 1-3. From what I can tell and going over all these scenarios, Oregon State wins the Pac-12 with the win versus UNLV this week. Simple as that. They control their own fate. They would be 4-1, and nobody else would have 4 wins. So they would win that with a win. UCLA wins. They can win the Pac-12 with the win versus Oregon and an Oregon State loss. Due to their head-to-head, they did beat Oregon State this year, so they have the head-to-head against them. I believe. I need to go back and look at that, but actually no, they don't. But Oregon State.
No, they don't.
But Oregon State would be 3-2, and UCLA would be 5-1. So that's why they would win that, and win the Pac-12 in that scenario. And then Oregon could still win the Pac-12. They need a lot of help. They got to win, and with an Oregon State loss, I believe Oregon beat UCLA this year. Oregon State loss would mean UNLV. Would mean UNLV is tied with them, but Oregon beat UNLV. Oregon, I believe, beat UNLV.
I think UNLV won that game. Oh boy,
it's a mess, guys. It's a mess.
I was gonna say we did not. We've tried to do our homework and we still can't even get it right.
It's really difficult.
No, okay. Oregon did beat UNLV, so they hold the tiebreaker there.
Right. So that's why they can still. There's an outside chance that Oregon still wins the Pac-12, which would be kind of cool and crazy at the same time. But I mean, a lot plays out. And
UCLA beat UNLV. So
right.
Yes.
So UCLA holds some tiebreakers. So UCLA is hoping for an Oregon State loss this week, and they got to win. So UNLV can still get the 2 seed, which is wild. With the win versus Oregon State and a UCLA loss due to tiebreakers, they can get up there. And then USC can get the 4 seed with the win and Oregon loss. Oregon can really slide down to the 5 seed, which is kind of weird and kind of crazy. Gonzaga can move up to the 5 seed with a win. Gonzaga versus USC is really for the 5 and 6 seed this week. But other than that, the Pac-12 is just insanely wild. There's a lot of implications for conference tournament. We thought coming into the season that the Pac-12 was going to be the most even conference in the league anyway, and it really is. So. The Pac-12 is a little wild right now, so the wild west, if you will.
It really is, and the craziest thing is when I'm looking at the standings here, with Gonzaga being the number 6 in the conference, like they're almost one of the scariest teams on this list. And
Gonzaga beat you guys.
They beat us.
Granted, it was very, very first game of the season, but it was. Gonzaga is a team that, they've looked really good. They've looked really bad. They're very inconsistent, but if they give you their best game, they can really shock some people.
Well, that's it. I mean, they have 4 players that I could name off the top of my head in Sawyer, Stern, Dunscombe, Goldsberry, and Kickler, who have all just taken over games this year. And if all 4 of those guys get together and start clicking on the same night, they're an incredibly dangerous team.
Yeah,
so
I mean their point guard is terrific as well. So I mean they got Kickler and they got what's the other point guard's name? Jonathan Green. So
Jonathan Green, yeah.
They bring him off the bench right now, and so Gonzaga's a team that's fairly deep. So they can really shock some people. So again, Gonzaga gets that 5 seed. You really don't want to be that team in that 4 seed spot, because I think Gonzaga is a team that could really, really surprise some people.
Yeah, but like I said, even if you're the 3 seed and you're getting Gonzaga as a 6, I don't think UCLA wants to lose that 2 seed this week. So they're really going to be fighting. Oregon State, obviously,
they're going to get a bye,
controls their own destiny. Yeah, pretty much controls their own destiny. If they win, they're in and they get a bye. UCLA, again, same thing, but they're got to sweat it out a little bit, because I would not want to be the 3 seed going up against Gonzaga if they end up 6th.
I would not either. That would terrify me. So. The Pac-12 is going to be really fun to watch in the this week in the conference tournament, and maybe that's a conference. I don't know. I mean, Gonzaga's had some really good wins. USC's got that 30-point win against Oregon. It's either might be the most inconsistent conference that we have, but I mean these teams show out some nights, and some nights we've seen each of these teams play very, very well at times. So
and that's it. Like you say, it could be the most inconsistent conference we have, but you see those conferences in real life sometimes. Look at the Pac-12. We're talking about maybe they could send all 6 teams to the dance, right? Yeah. Theoretically.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And that's happened before, where the Big East, the Big Ten, ACC have all done it, where they've sent 3 out of 4 teams to the Final Four. So
yeah, well, when you get a conference, I mean, we talk about the selection. I'll take you behind the scenes to everybody. When we're talking about selection, we're talking about strength of schedule. We're talking about how tough is your conference, and you go to the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 has arguably been the most competitive conference. The Big 12 is great. I mean, they got really great teams. I think the Pac-12 has been the most competitive out of all the conferences so far. So that really helps your resume if you're in the Pac-12.
Yeah, for sure. If everybody played twice, these standings could be completely flipped in 2 weeks.
I completely agree. So the Pac-12's a mess, but it's something we'd love to see going into Week 8. But yeah, that's your scenarios, guys. Should be a really fun week. Next week we go into conference tournaments. And then we take a week off for our selection committee to make seeding, and then we go into our NCAA tournament. We'll come out with the rest of the season schedule soon. But really looking forward to Week 8. C. Weber, anything else you want to say on this show before we let these guys go and I get ready to call Wisconsin and Ohio State?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of subjects this week, so I think we pretty much hit everything I was thinking to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Well, we're glad you came on. We're excited. Always fun when you're on with me, so we'll have to get you on again. But yeah, I mean, I got to get ready for a game, and Ohio and Baby Hawk's really upset right now. So Wisconsin, Ohio State at 7 Eastern in about 15 minutes. We'll tip that one off out in Columbus. So you guys stick tuned for that, and we will see you guys in about 15 minutes.